Welcome to the Best Damn Podcast, brought to you from I Music and Podcast Studios in downtown Boulder City. This is your host, Jill Lagan, CEO of the Boulder City Chamber of Commerce. In each episode, we will highlight what makes Boulder City, home of the Hoover Dam, the ideal place to operate your small business, explore world-class tourism attractions, and discover why we are the perfect place to live and unwind. We are here today for a very exciting episode of the Best Damn Podcast with Jonathan Alvarez, CEO and Chief of Security for Protective Force International. We are really glad to have you, and I know I'm safe today, so thanks for being here.
Good morning. I am so honored to be here in the beautiful city of Boulder City.
Thank you. Thanks for driving out in uniform and probably a little uncomfortable in your little chair there, but we're so glad you came, and thank you for being here. Thank you for valuing Boulder City and understanding the importance. And so kind of taking off on just that statement alone, I was so grateful to have Protective Force International join the Chamber of Commerce here in Boulder City because they saw this as another opportunity to provide security, additional security to our police department for special events and just for other general purpose. And so thank you for caring about the rural communities. And coming from that Vegas office, I had the chance to tour it. It's amazing. I don't know I'd want to ever leave it. But thank you for coming out to Boulder. So thanks for being here today.
No, again, it's an honor. Boulder City is a staple point here in Nevada. When people come and visit, they have to see the Hoover Dam. They see Lake Mead. It is just a beautiful place to come and visit. And we want nothing more than to help secure not only the safety of its residents, but the businesses in Boulder City.
Thank you. And guests as they're coming through too. And how long have you been in law enforcement?
Total between law enforcement, military, and security industry, it's a little over 20 years already.
Wow.
I started very young. I got hired at 19 in the Broward County Sheriff's Office in South Florida.
Wow.
And started my law enforcement career there. Obviously, being a police officer to me at that age wasn't enough, so I went into the military reserves, paid for my degrees, so I definitely got a lot of that out of that.
Perfect.
Went overseas, came back, did a lot of fun things, and learned a lot, not only serving our country and the communities in South Florida, but it prepared me for a leadership role like this, something so different.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yes, so thank you for recognizing that by serving your country, you gained a lot from that. Not only did you provide all of us that security and that sense of security, but we're able to cover your expenses for college, and we're seeing a spike in enrollment into the military and more interest, and it's really an exciting opportunity, and I'm so grateful that people are willing to sacrifice like that. So thank you for your service.
Fun fact, I am going back in as well, so to serve Nevada National Guard. So just waiting for my start date, and it's another opportunity to serve the community here in Southern Nevada and Northern Nevada as well.
Well, thank you. Yes, we want to mention that you also have a location in what part of Northern Nevada?
Reno.
In Reno.
Reno. So we have a small station in Reno. It has about 10 of our academy-trained officers, and about a handful of partner properties that we have, residential communities and businesses, that we bridge the gap. That's what our mission is, bridging the gap between the residents and public safety.
And we absolutely saw that firsthand during Art in the Park. So we're grateful to have you be at that particular event and help maintain the security of the footprint after hours. And so that was my first exposure to your company, and so grateful that we could all go home in the evenings and know that things were taken care of. And our police, who had to be there all day long, they really needed to be able to serve at night for the regular residents. And so this edition, it did exactly that. It bridged that gap. We'll be doing the same thing for Spring Jam, and I'm super excited to be able to work with your officers, having met several of them. But you have a very special officer that you work with. Do you want to introduce us to your wonderful partner?
Sure. Canine Pele. So he is a half explosive detection canine. So we have 14 canines in the organization. Most of them search for explosive chemicals and things that make up a bomb. And then the others are firearms, and we have a narcotics detection canine. So we put some of these to use within the shelters that we partner with. We're also the housing authority officers for Southern Nevada.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so it
Wow.
is a massive operation. So canines are an essential aspect within the private and public safety aspect.
I would imagine that not only for your own personal, for human life security, that having that addition is absolutely essential. But it also, I think it makes you a little more human too. People see that dog and it kind of breaks a barrier, doesn't it?
It does. We love bringing our canine partners to community events. So we host several community events throughout the month for our partners. So our organization manages a little over 556 communities just in Southern Nevada
Oh my
and a
gosh.
handful in Northern Nevada. So we did the math, and that was almost 300,000 residents that we are essentially responsible for. And the numbers came out yesterday for our calls for service in the year of 2024, and it was 497,338 calls that our organization responded to in the state of Nevada.
See, and that alleviated that stress on standard public safety, on other partners within all the people who are part of Fusion. And so I can just imagine the absolute appreciation that, especially Governor Lombardo, he totally gets it. And all of the authorities that are within the law enforcement here in Las Vegas, where the concentration of your efforts are, I would really imagine they are so grateful for that hand up, because that is a lot of service calls that Metro didn't have to deal with.
Yeah, and some of them still, they come out because we still conduct our own citizens arrests. We fill out paperwork regarding that kind of stuff. So we don't transport anybody that we arrest, and it's up to law enforcement then to determine the fact, are they going to be cited or will they be released on their own with a warning, trespass, these kind of things. So we focus on the quality of life issues that are or misdemeanors, non-felonies, things like that. Do our team members respond to critical emergencies? Absolutely. Shootings, bomb threats, active assailants, everything that our law enforcement partners respond to, we are either trained in as well and have or continue to respond on a daily and weekly basis. So it's very important to have our team members have a set standard. That's a vetting process, because the state has its own vetting process than we do. And then now they go through our academy, and then they go through an FTO program, which your husband went through,
Right,
probably
absolutely.
twice now.
Right,
So,
yeah.
but now after that FTO program, they still have advanced training that they're mandated to do. So law enforcement officers out here are every year they do 12 hours. We focus on the same. So we have access to online police courses that are accredited, that
Oh,
now our team members do the same amount of hours each year as a
right.
continuing aspect. So we're setting the standard here in Nevada as the state for the rest of the country, because we are nationally recognized now for our programs, our training, and our emergency security teams, which is like our form of an SRT or SWAT, who
Right.
go in and hunt for squatters and violent criminals in these challenged communities that are out there.
I would imagine just your presence, is a huge deterrent, but also a huge comfort, right?
Absolutely.
Because I mean, I see you in your uniform. I saw the gentleman and the ladies that I was visiting with when I toured your office. And it's not like you're just wearing shorts and flip-flops, right? You are in uniform. And I imagine that provides a sense of comfort to those that you're helping to secure their homes and bridge that gap. But I also imagine it's quite a deterrent. People aren't going to mess with you.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I think now in society we have changed in the way that we see safety and security because of the amount of violence that has been happening. People want to see professional security. People want to see private sector officers that work well with law enforcement
Yes.
for the mission of everyone. I think now is the time where organizations like us can step up and set that standard and be the pinnacle of what the country needs to move into, because I have an extensive law enforcement career and military, and I can tell you that there's not enough of them ever. people sometimes don't want to be in this career field and
Right.
don't want to be a police officer anymore because of the culture that they've seen in the past, let's say 5, 6 years.
Yes.
And now somebody still has to do that job.
Right.
So the amount of criminals and calls and incidents are not changing, but our landscape of selecting professional law enforcement
Mm-hmm.
is. So if the job is still there and there's less of them, who will step up?
Right. And you're exactly right. And you already have all that knowledge. You have that knowledge, you have that experience, you have an understanding of all the elements that go into crime, but also all the elements that go into solving it and protecting and reassuring the people that the crime has been committed against, whoever that victim is. And so that's knowledge. You can't always just train that into them in a 12-week academy, right?
No.
So I'm loving that you see the value of continuing what it is that you started your profession and love to do. I would imagine you're not the only one. Are most of the individuals that are working for you, do they all have that similar background?
When we first started, in about 3 years of the organization, we were congressionally recognized for 52% of the department being military veterans.
Mm.
So we have that plaque very predominantly
Displayed
placed
in the
in
lobby.
the lobby,
Yeah.
right? And at the time, we had about 106, 107 security officers, so it's about 50-something of them. We now have over 260 to about
Wow.
270 officers in the state. And I can't even begin to tell you who's who anymore and
Mm.
who's what, because as the chief, I come and meet individuals like yourself, right?
Right.
My entire job has completely changed, and to ensure that my team, the community, and our law enforcement partners understand what we do as an organization and pioneer the industry as
Mm-hmm.
self. So the what do you call it? I would say the stigma
Oh,
of
okay.
security is removed, and we just get over this mountain,
Yes.
because traditionally security is, the out of shape. Paul Blart did a
Yeah.
great movie out here, right? And they have
Mall
Vegas
cop.
Mall Cop, right?
I love that movie.
It's a great movie. They're all great movies. Not when you see it in real life,
No,
right?
I'm sure not.
So we have these capabilities,
Mm.
and we have the training and the vetting process, and all of our team members are trained to respond to a multitude of incidents and calls and provide resources to those who need it. So we partner with Vegas Stronger, who's a
Mm.
great big organization down in downtown. So let's say somebody's biggest issue is the unhoused.
Mm-hmm.
So our team members carry golden tickets that we
Oh.
can offer them a place to stay, a meal. So we go there with the opportunity to say, hey, you're on private property. This is somebody, we represent the owners, and we're
Mm.
asking you to leave, but we're not just kicking you out. We're offering you this. Here's the address. You bring this to the intake,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to take care of you. So Vegas Stronger actually had their ribbon cutting yesterday, their 7-year, I think, anniversary.
Wow.
And Dave's and when we went there, we have our own community unit, like community officers
Okay.
that focus on community events and that type of outreach. And one of the individuals that was there came up to Sergeant Brian, who oversees that unit, and he points at her and he goes, "Thank you, because you're the reason why I'm here." And we were all like,
Oh.
well, this is what it's about, right? And I said
Yes.
goosebumps.
Yeah, that's
You
an
know,
aha moment.
exactly,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So
amazing.
just as something as simple
Mm.
as handing out an opportunity to change somebody's life,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what that does, right? So we have multiple, what you call aha moments
Mm-hmm.
throughout the day, because our officers get sent letters, and our organization, people bring food and cookies to our
Yeah.
headquarters thanking us for what we do. And that's what it's about.
That's right. Yeah, it validates all your effort, all your time, all your energy, your sacrifice. I would imagine, are you married?
Yes.
I would imagine that when you leave your wife in the morning, there's got to be I happen to understand it. So there is some intrepidation every morning. Are they going to return home the same?
Mhm.
And so that I would imagine all kind of just is justified by those types of moments.
And I set the standard for my company because I also wear the uniform.
Mm.
There are
Yeah.
leaders in other police departments throughout the nation that wear a suit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't bridge the gap between your frontline officers. So I make it a point to wear the uniform. If there's a call for service and I'm nearby, I stop and help my team
Mm-hmm.
members. But yes, I also have a newborn.
Oh,
Yes. So thank you. Yeah.
congratulations.
Little Esther Grace.
Oh,
Yeah.
sweet. Esther Grace.
Yeah, she's 6 weeks yesterday, so not getting any sleep as well. But now I'm thinking about it as a father, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing now that I can see or do when I look at her and
Mm.
go, I need to leave my community better for her and for
Absolutely.
all the small children and everyone in our community. So that is what my legacy is going to be focused on, is
Mm.
the positive aspect of changing and bridging that gap
Mm-hmm.
and leaving the communities a better place.
I love it. I can see why your wife loves you. And I know Esther Grace is going to love you too. What an amazing father and human you are. Speaking of that, I love to give our audience, our listeners, a little bit of information about the person behind the company, the business, the profession. And so we love to ask simple questions like, what was your first job?
So my first job, I was actually 14. It was a part-time job in South Florida over there, and it was a busboy. I think I was probably making $6, $7,
Oh,
if
wow.
that, an hour. I
And
mean,
so grateful.
yeah, I mean, I'm an only child.
Okay.
So I came out very different than what an only child would
Mm-hmm.
traditionally people think, oh, they're spoiled, they're this and
Mm-hmm.
that. My parents kicked me out and made me get a job if I wanted to buy a video game. So I had the part-time job cleaning tables and refilling waters and things like that,
And learning service.
and learning that. So
Mm-hmm.
at a young age throughout my middle, I think it was high school, early high school. Yeah.
That is awesome. And I would imagine that from that, is that how you decided, or when did you decide you wanted to go into law enforcement?
So a friend of mine showed me a program out in South Florida there. It was called the Explorer Program, and they have something very similar here.
Yeah.
Metro does, and I'm sure your husband has come across many of the explorers that become police officers. So I was in a very different program. So I joined U.S. Customs and Border Protection
Whoa.
Explorer Program. So it was very weird because we would go on international flights coming into Miami International with the CBP agents at the time. And
And they took the youth to do that?
it was like crazy.
Oh my gosh.
But every summer we would go away and do like a 2 or 3 week mini academy. So, and that was in St. Augustine in Florida. So we would go there, and then throughout our time, we would come back and do our 1 weekend or 1 week or meetings each week, things like that. We did shooting competitions. We had competitions on learning how to do law enforcement. And ultimately, we got a certification that we can go on like the boats.
Wow.
We were going on boats. I was probably 18 or 17 or 18 at the time. And from an early age of, I think it was 14, or like right when I started my job or the part-time job, I found this program and continued that. So I was in school, had a little part-time job, and I was part of an Explorer program
Wow.
over there. So a few years into it, now we're in the port of Miami going on these boats looking for drugs with agents right next to us,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
So I was doing things at a young age that prepped me for this role. And then right at 19 years old, I got selected to be a deputy. And very young, I saw things and did things that probably no 19-year-old should ever see. But several years into that, it changes you as an individual, and you know that very well, and being married to a law enforcement officer for many years. And again, it set me up for this. It set me up to serve the community, know what the community needs. And then all of my schooling was through criminal justice and criminal justice leadership. So bridging with law enforcement, security, and military,
Right.
everything is just prepared me for this. And I literally give the glory to God, because I would not be anywhere else if it wasn't for him.
Absolutely. Or as safe as you are today.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I can imagine you can tell story after story of close calls. Yeah, and we're not going to get into those today, but I can only imagine all of that experience. I can imagine what your mom and dad, though, so young. They must have really been worried about you, but yet could see you were on such a professional trajectory with such purpose. So many people at that age wandered and really didn't know what they wanted. But man, you were like laser focused.
It really was. And it's funny because my mother and my father both are my employees today. So the tide just switched, right? I can treat them like employees in the building, and then after the fact, I'm very, hey, they're my parents, right? But growing up with them and her understanding, she retired from the government after
Mm.
almost 24 years in a three-letter agency out here, and she understood that what I was getting into was not what she essentially thought I would get into. So she would forbid me from watching Cops, and I would sneak Cops at night,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
So it's funny. It's super funny, the things that they tried to do to divert me from going into that profession. But it's a calling. It really is.
That's right.
You cannot go into security, the military, or law enforcement unless you have an absolute reason and you know that reason and you're steadfast in that and knowing what and who you're serving.
Exactly. And also having the ability to let it loose when you walk away.
100%.
I was a rape crisis counselor for 11 years, and I just had to develop a way that I could walk away from that situation and the hurt, the sadness, the frustration, the madness, and go back home and now be mom to small little kids. And I just remember trying to separate that and compartmentalize that. It takes a special individual to be able to do it at the level that you do.
And it's all mental.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless you get into a physical altercation or you get injured physically, the strongest output and your foundation of mental fortitude has to be there.
Oh, yeah.
And if you, again, are an individual ever thinking to get into one of those three fields, if you are not strong mentally, I would just highly would tell you no.
Yeah,
It's not.
I agree.
We cannot have anybody who is weak mentally
Mm-hmm.
because you take on the burdens of the community. At my level, every community that we serve is my community.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a vested interest. I personally have a vested interest in everything that happens in an apartment complex that has thousands of people living in there that I may or may not know. But if something happens, we take it personal, and it's our responsibility,
Right.
along with law enforcement, to figure out how this can never happen again.
That's right. Not everybody is fit for every position.
100%.
I can absolutely see that. And I would imagine that your vetting program and your training program, it really probably leads into that. You guys can, I think my husband was academy staff, and it was very evident who was going to make it and who wasn't, right?
Absolutely.
So I would imagine, I think I actually might have met your mom as I was leaving the facility. Is she have blonde hair?
She's got lighter hair, yeah.
Yeah, so I think she was coming in as I was leaving, and they introduced me, but I didn't realize it was your mom. So that is very cool. But yeah, and she wasn't in uniform, so that's how I knew she was a mom.
Yeah, she wears the corporate attire.
Yeah, she was awesome.
That was one of the one things she goes, I'll come on board, and she's my CFO, and she goes, I'm not wearing a uniform.
Good for her.
I'm like, all right, Mom, no worries. I need your expertise, but I can compromise on the uniform.
There are way too many cute clothes.
Yeah.
You can't make us wear your guys' clothes. Okay, is there something that people maybe don't know about you that makes you kind of individual in who you are?
So a fun fact, I absolutely love painting miniatures.
Really?
Yeah, people think like I am the biggest tabletop war game miniature painting nerd.
Really?
Yeah, it's so funny. Like nobody would ever guess that.
No, because most officers you think as large motor skill people, right?
Yeah.
Yes, your eyes are on everything. You're constantly, you can't tunnel in and all of that. But I can't imagine sitting there with a magnifying glass painting little things.
These guys are about the base of them is 32 millimeters and
gosh.
less. So you're talking about a hand that is the quarter size of your pinky nail, right?
Oh, man.
And I think that I've noticed that the tediousness of that at my level of leadership and as a CEO removes me from my mind that is constantly going.
Yes.
So I now get laser focused on one thing. And that actually relaxes me.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I absolutely, now that you say that, you're already detail oriented, so it would make sense that something fine like that would be of interest. But you're right. It takes so much focus that you don't have the ability to get outside of your own head.
100%. So
I love that.
my wife supports it. Even my folks support it. And every once in a while, I get to go out into the community at a game store and roll some dice and play and strategize and war game. And these are things that I learned in the military, going to these specialized schools of
Right.
wargaming, right?
Right.
That's what it is. So now I have the opportunity to challenge my mind with others that may or may not have that level, and then come back and relax for about an hour or two painting this one character that I have to put together with tweezers and like plastic glue and then paint. And it's so relaxing. My wife tried it, so I bought her a box.
Yeah.
And she about threw it.
Oh, yeah. I would be,
Yeah.
no, thank you.
She couldn't get like this guy's arm to stay on the body. And she's like, I'm done. What do you
He's
mean?
an armless person.
Yeah, can I just leave him without an arm? And I'm like, no, baby.
We have to talk about the accessibility side of things too, right? Yeah. I'm with her. That makes a lot of sense to me. So does Pele live with you?
He does.
Oh, very good.
He does everything with me besides shower.
Oh, well, thank you.
Because
you painted that mental image. Thank you.
He sleeps next to me.
Oh.
And every once in a while, he'll raise his paw, and I have to put my arm off the side of the bed.
Because he just wants to hold on.
Hold my hand. And it is a crazy. He's like a trained, explosive, killing working dog. And when he comes home and he doesn't have his vest on, he is the biggest baby, biggest puppy. And it's crazy to see.
Does he love Esther Grace?
He has no idea what to do with her.
Oh.
But because all she does is cry. She's in that
Yeah.
era, right? All he is looking for is for my direction to help. Hey, Dad, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do? She's like, there's the thing that is yelling. I don't know what to do. So he gets all anxious and riled up. So we have that, and then we're trying to calm her down. And then we have a very old, blind and deaf poodle, like very tiny. She's like 6 pounds. That's my wife's little dog. So she wears Pampers also. So we got the amount of money I spend on Pampers in a household now is just catastrophe. But
it's only going to get worse. So just be ready.
Yeah. So I have the little poodle that's running around. She doesn't know what's going on. She's blind and deaf. So I make sure that she's okay. Then I have this 67-pound brilliant tool, right, and partner, and he's like, I need to do something.
Yeah.
And then the baby's crying. Then my wife's like, help.
What do I do?
And I'm like, there was no book. I can't read anything about this. It's just,
What I'm hearing you say is that military, police, all kinds of different versions of police, none of that really prepared you as much as being able to manage a household for your job. Because
100%.
that's really going to become and it's going to get a little worse, and then it'll get better, and then it gets a little worse, and then it gets really great. So just so you know, there's a cycle to it all. And
Good.
You're up for a challenge, I'm sure, and you're going to do great. And I'm sure Esther's going to be a beautiful babe. So one of my favorite questions to ask before we leave is, what's your favorite book, or what book are you reading right now?
So I read the Bible. My foundation in everything that I do is I'm a devout Christian. I'm very vocal about my faith. So I love reading history and reading the history of what happened to us. How did we get to this point? What is the future? And then seeing history play out throughout history itself.
Yes,
right?
repeat itself.
Repeat itself. So there's so many things. Like, that's always my current book. Of course, I've read like Extreme Ownership. I've read all of these others. There's
leadership books.
All the leadership books under the sun. But The Art of War is a great book. And
have you read Captain of Your Ship?
No, I have
not. Oh,
not.
man,
is that a good one?
That absolutely is right up your alley.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I have heard about it, but I did not read it. So there's a list that leadership and police leaders put out, and the military leaders put out for reading lists throughout the years.
I would love that list if you'll share that with me.
Yes. So
that'd be great.
You can see what that year's reading list of, like, for instance, the Marine Corps Commandant or the Army's general reading list. So it goes by like units, and then sometimes the overarching military branch or a police department.
Right.
So I don't do that yet. I think that's a great aspect, but sometimes when I give Employee of the Month gifts or Christmas gifts or things like that, I give the gift of knowledge. So a book.
I love it.
And I don't think giving somebody booze is gonna help them grow. But my mantra is, as long as you make yourself 1% better every day, just learn
Oh,
one thing.
1% better
1%
every
better.
day.
That means you're 365% better than you were the year before.
I love it.
So if everyone just tries, learn a new word, learn a fact,
Mhm.
just 1%, because that fact could lead into a conversation with somebody
Right.
who then now you build a relationship with, whether you can do business with them, start a friendship, some commonality of, especially Boulder City, right?
Mhm.
You have such a tight-knit community.
Right.
Everyone should know everybody,
That's true.
right? So you got to have that ability to have conversations, be personable, and just do it. Make yourself go out for a walk, because that walk makes yourself 1% better,
Right.
right?
Put some oxygen in your brain.
Something. So,
I love that. 1% better every day. I think I'm gonna add that to my list of mantras.
heck yeah.
That's great. Jonathan, you have been an absolute joy to have. Thank you very much. It's been great getting to know you a little bit better. I am feeling very confident that we are nice and secure out here in Boulder City for our special events. I would highly encourage all of the other nonprofits or other people who are doing, organizations that are doing special events, to make sure that they check out what your company has to offer, because bridging that gap is very important. Assisting our local law enforcement is very important. And I am so glad to hear that you guys have such a great relationship. And so thank you for being here. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and an honor to just spend some time with you.
Thanks.
This episode of the Best Damn Podcast has been a production of the Boulder City Chamber of Commerce, brought to you from I Music and Podcast Studios. Please check out all the links and social media handles on our website as well at bouldercitychamber.com. You can find the Best Damn Podcast on all your favorite podcast directories. Like us and share on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, discover, explore, and unwind in Boulder City.